Hello and welcome to a special interview for VIT Today. We have with us Mr. Dhruv Sehgal, well known for his work as a writer and an actor with Filter Copy, Dice Media, and one of our country's most watched web series, Little Things. We're really glad to have you, Dhruv, for the interview and look forward to
Same here.
discussing really good stuff with you. So, starting off, different people often have their own quirks and habits when it comes to writing. So could you give us a little insight into your mind when you're writing? What goes around you and what's your environment like and what's your thought process?
Well, I wish I could say it's so nice and easy and it's a very calming experience and a very cathartic, but it's a very painful experience, besides being a very joyous experience, obviously. Um, just like any other job, I would like to say, this one too has its good days and terribly awful days. How do I approach it personally, or if I have any method, is to just I believe in the quote that, no writing gets done till the time writing doesn't start. So I bring myself a lot of effort to sit on my table and chair and start writing. Whether I get it done or not get it done depends on a lot of factors. But the first step is to actually make sure that you're sitting on your table, and you have your coffee and you have your music and you have the blank page in front of you. And then it starts, yeah. So on days when it's supposed to flow, it flows. The days when it's not supposed to flow, you are just distracted and just tired. I think exhaustion plays a very large part in me not being able to be productive. It's not that I'm not interested, or yeah, I think it's a lot of bit tired. Besides the usual questions of why the hell am I doing this? What is the point of this?
So Dhruv, just to follow up to that, see now, as a part of our editorial, most of us are young writers, and one thing that we face continuously is this annoying writer's block that pops up in the worst possible moments, usually before we have a deadline that comes up. Assuming that occurs to you also, how exactly do you deal with it?
Yeah, the worst thing that one can do when there's a writer's block is to not engage your mind. Now, by that, I don't mean that you have to forcefully sit on the table and work. But when you have a writer's block, do something which actually is trying to stimulate your mind. So it could be reading, it could be watching a shitty film, it could be watching a great film, it could be cooking something. Anything which involves some level of intellectual or creative stimulation. Uh, Need not be anything related to writing, because what happens when you do something interesting, something happens inside you and you have that momentum and you want to continue it, even if it's not with regards to writing, it's about something else. So if you're into cricket, then you read something interesting about some player, so you're just curious there. It's important to keep your mind somewhat, not exactly entertained, but it's important to do things, and as opposed to just sitting and not doing anything and giving up on it. Unless until you've hit a point of exhaustion, then you should just not do anything. But if it's just a block and not exhaustion, I think the block happens when you need to think of things in a different way, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's how I approach it. Right now, I may change the approach.
Right, sir. So, Dhruv, how does one replicate? So, since you're a writer and an actor, so you could probably have great insight to this, right? So, how does one replicate, let's say, a scene from script to when it comes to the set, right? So, like as a writer, when you're probably writing something, you have a certain visual in your mind saying that this is how I want these two people to interact. But that may not always turn out the way, because people have different personalities and different ways of carrying out that scene, right? So how do you usually replicate from script to set?
Yeah, the first thing I think one has to do is to let go. In the sense, know that this is a collaborative medium, and you're not in a place of authority that your word is the final word, and to approach everything when it comes to this process with a sense of doubt and with a sense of not insecurity, but with this with the sense of doubt is a nice way of putting it, because you should be okay with being proved wrong, and you may have thought of it in a particular way, but here comes this DOP and he's just read the scene for the first time, and he says something which actually has more truth in it than you have ever thought of it in that particular way. So the first thing is to let go, to trust that and to know that this is a collaborative medium. Second thing is to trust the people around you. And the third thing is to know that this particular story, or any story for that matter, is a breathing story. Now, what happens when it's breathing is that the story also has the power to contradict your particular notions about it, right? It is not static. Uh, it is not one thing. It is many things. Uh, so this is how one should do. This is how we do it. This is how I like to do it. But for that to also happen, the trust is very important. So you need to trust the director, and you can't trust the director when you don't trust him. So right, you can't trust the director when you don't feel that he's worthy of your trust. So that relationship needs to build from before. That relationship of mutual respect and admiration and mutual respect for each other's perspective needs to happen already. After that, all this needs to happen. अगर पहले वो ही नहीं है तो फिर possible ही नहीं है. No, then you're pretty much screwed. If you're working with a director who you don't like, so we'll just go crazy.
Okay, so with a show like Little Things, something that it pretty much struck at home for a lot of us, the theme of it slightly changed from season 1 to season 3, where initially it was really exciting and it slowly turned into a more slow and relaxed tone, while still remaining appealing to all of us. So was this an attempt to basically symbolize relationships and how they evolve over a period of time, or what was the thought process behind that?
No, it was exactly what you said. The show attempts to portray relationships in its real form. I won't say truest form because it's not true. It's made up also to a very large extent, but it just chronicles the different stages that these two find themselves in when they are in this relationship. So it's just that. So the first season is about the honeymoon phase of the couple. The second season is what happens when the world keeps interfering between them two, which is why each episode has a person from the outside world being present in the season. And the third season questions the idea of individuality in a group, in a relationship. Can you be your individual self in a relationship? Can you have your own dreams and hopes and aspirations which necessarily don't feature the other person? Or do you get lost in them and do you become that one unit? So the attempt is to just through them to just ask a few questions about relationship and to see it in different stages.
The character that you portray in the film, in previous interviews of yours, you've often talked about how it's to some extent, quite similar to your personality in real life. So does that help when you play a character that is so similar that you can basically pull personalities and quirks from each other? And does it affect your real life?
Yeah. So I've always said that I'm like 50% him and 50% like her. I kind of empathize with both of them and I kind of disagree with both of them because those are both the characters that live in my head. Having said that, how does it make it easy if I'm able to relate to them is purely in terms of performance. I'm able to know when I am saying something while performing, whether it's sounding real or not. Because I don't have to put on a voice, I don't have to put on a walk, and I don't have to put myself in a scenario that I've never been in. So I don't have to question whether it's real or not. So when I have to just not exactly replicate or recreate these things, but when I have to extend my life a little more in the form of these characters, I just ask, I can hear whether I know whether it's real enough or not, whether this acting is real enough or not. So that is the only way that I think it aids me, or one of the biggest ways it aids me. Whether it interferes in my real life, it does, but similarly it interferes in the life and I'm playing the character. I also feel sometimes very envious of the relationship, but sometimes I also feel hateful towards their relationship. So it works both ways. Yeah, sometimes the line does get blurred. Sometimes it's enjoyable, sometimes it's not enjoyable, but that's pretty much one's relationship with work and personal life.
Right. So, I'm not sure if this happens in every friend circle, but like at least in mine, every time an episode used to drop or we used to watch an episode, we would always come back and regroup and probably discuss, right? And we used to like probably relate it to ourselves. We're like, "Ki bro, mere saath bhi aise hua tha ek baar," right? So I just wanted to understand, like, is this something that we got completely wrong about the show, and it's people just believe this is what happened, and you're like, no, that is not what I wanted to say, but fine, that's what you understood. There's something extremely something that people believe is extremely true about the show, but it wasn't what you're trying to convey.
No, yeah, I genuinely think that the attempt was to make a show which will resonate with people of our age group, And now when people ask me to write, and I keep getting offers to write another couple show about this age group, and that's the last thing I would want to do because it is fucking limited. I genuinely find our age group to be. I think now I'm entering an interesting phase when I'm turning 30 or when I've turned 30 because इससे पहले ना यार चार चीजें होती थी हमारी लाइफ में या अब होती हैं अभी भी मेरी लाइफ में तुम्हारा रिलेशनशिप तुम्हारा काम के साथ तुम्हारा रिलेशनशिप तुम्हारे पेरेंट्स के साथ तुम्हारा रिलेशनशिप और तुम्हारा खुद के साथ so from your fucking Ranbir Kapoor films to little things and I'm dissing both of them equally it feels very stagnant it feels very it feels limited because the world is very limited now because there is nothing interesting in this world also with these characters because they live in such nice houses they have a good life so after a point you're like okay fine now what so I think this is a post-mortem of the whole experience but having said that what you said was actually what the attempt was it was to make a show which resonates with people how did we do it by just saying things that resonated with us and they so happen to resonate with whatever thousands or hundred thousands more it shows the lack of originality nowadays I guess also to some extent.
Okay, so now Little Things in particular, it displays this quite a modern take on what relationships are, at least according to status quo. Especially those discussions or those conversations about the living situations and opening about those relationships to your parents. Almost every part of the show usually follows a realistic cue, and that makes it really endearing to a lot of us. But this level of openness isn't something that you would witness regularly, right? It's something that is kind of idealized to us when we look at a show like this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree with you. It's not it's a make believe world in that sense, but it's an aspirational show. So there's this whole thing of aspirational movies. Karan Johar makes aspirational movies like Student of the Year. You want to go to that school. Here is the show, which is an aspirational show because it's based on just one simple philosophy, which is the freedom of communication, the freedom of expression. So what happens when two people actually say things that they want to say? That is the biggest drawback of any relationship. That you're in a relationship and you're not saying things that you want to say, or you're shying away, or you are uncomfortable. But here are these two people who will say things. So yes, a lot of it is about. A lot of it is in that sense very very aspirational but even then a lot of times in the show itself there are times when the characters don't say what they want to say they take 3 episodes to say something what he said was pretty shit so it's about our relationship with not our relationship but our equation with our own expression of thoughts it's so tricky to love someone to respect them but to be honest with them I mean, how difficult it is quite difficult, because they can hate you for the thoughts that you have, and they also love you for the thoughts that you have.
So, right. So, one of the last questions about the show, and then we'll pull to something else. So, in the last season of the show, there was this one episode where I think you go back home and you're interacting with your mom, and there's this moment where your mother apologizes to you, saying that this is what we knew best to do, right? Because you were pretty upset about the fact that your mom didn't let you do a couple of things that you wanted to do when you were in school. So that pretty much struck a chord with almost everybody I know, and like because it's quite relatable to all of us. Was there a certain thought process you had when you were trying to write that moment? They can just talk to us a bit about that.
No, man. As kids, we always believe that our parents are not good enough for us, and it's like this perverse thing that we want them to do is to just say sorry to us. It wasn't this, but it was mainly that as kids we always feel that my only if my mother would have allowed me those tabla classes, only if my mother would have been not so crazy about my studies. We always want to. Then I would have done this, or then I would have. Maybe it's a reason to also not confront our own fuck ups in life. but it was just to see, just to hear, just to hear an actual sorry from a mother, and saying that, and not saying sorry that we fucked up, but sorry as if she says it in a very matter of fact that, we tried, but maybe it wasn't good enough. And but our definition of what is best is very different from your definition of best. She says that, right, कि best से better भी कुछ होता होगा, but हमें नहीं पता वो क्या है. तुझे पता है तो तू मुझे बता दे. It's just I don't know. It's just, I mean, in the context of the show, it just made sense to put that, because it was him trying to go back home while asking himself what is home, and so yeah, just put him in a more difficult situation. No such thought process. It was just. It was also a lot of writing is also like a lot of editing. By that I mean that, I can't really look at that moment in isolation, because the moment before that was very important, which is that when he spent 6 months in Bangalore and he had the time of his life there, so suddenly he realized that he has this potential that he's not met, and if he really works hard, then it could just mean something so much more. So when he realizes that at home, that it was his mother or father who didn't actually push him towards his potential, so he gets angry. So in isolation, that thing is just very personal. But when you see it in context of the what happens before that and what happens after that, suddenly you realize that it was actually his frustration. That I actually had a great time, but now I realize that why I actually didn't have a great time before that, because of how you were not really interested in making me great. So yeah, we are also very obsessed with the mother seeming either very nice or very sorry for themselves. But at least in little things, after this whole scene, she actually has a very matter of fact. She asks him very matter of factly that, how are you so okay about leaving the house? Have you stopped relating with us? So I don't know. Here also is the same expression of freedom. Can two people say things that they want to? Let's see what happens when they say it. And it's never like hell. It's only good. So yeah.
Right, but there's something common as well, right, about both these organizations. They're both fighting for, let's say, not, I wouldn't say a different type of content, but content that's what trending nowadays, right? Because like it's pretty practical now to say that it takes a lot for me to go to a movie hall and watch a movie. Like it has to be something like Avengers that literally that you have to spend money, a lot of money to get marketing attention for, as compared to say I can just wait a week and it comes on Netflix and I can watch it then, right? So what do you think? Do you think this is like what do you think created this shift? Firstly, why are we shifting from, let's say, theaters to this? Question number one. And question number two, do you think this is a good change in the sense that it's giving rise to, let's say, new writers and new content to come up, or is it something detrimental in the sense that theater should be promoted?
No, man, I think it's a good change. Because when it comes to theatrical stuff, there's a lot of monopoly that is involved, especially in the Hindi film industry. In order to break that, a model like Netflix or an Amazon or a Hotstar, they're very, very good, because suddenly you hear these really unknown voices coming and writing, and unknown directors directing stuff, unknown actors. So I think it's very fresh. And good content only gets made when there is a diversity in content, and when people are being allowed to tell their own personal stories. So I think that is happening now. Why the shift is happening, I don't know. A lot of reasons. The shift is also happening because the way the world is also changing, in my opinion. I don't know a lot about this, but everything is down to personalization, right? Spotify has its own way of personalizing songs for you. Facebook personalizes your own timeline. Instagram personalizes your timeline. Everybody, it's algorithm, right? So for them to fun fact, by the way, the thumbnails that you have on the little things thumbnails that you have on your Netflix are different from the ones that I have. So say you like Avengers, so the thumbnails of little things that you will have on your thing will be me looking very suspiciously at Kavya. But because maybe I watched a lot of rom-coms, then the thumbnails that I'll have on my Netflix will be of us, whatever, cuddling or being together. So it's down to personalization. I'm in no place to say whether why is this happening. I just know it's happening, but because it's happening, should make use of it.
Right. So, can you talk to us anything or tell us anything about what you're working on right now, or like what you will be working on going ahead outside Little Things, or even if it's Little Things?
No, I don't want to talk about little things for sure. Yeah, there is an animated show that I'm working on. It's not exactly a show like that. though it started off like that. So there is that. There's another animated show about just different stories based around India. So there are those two animated shows. Besides that, there is a not exactly a political film, but a film around the politics of. It's just a slice of life film. It's just a slice of life political film that I've been developing since the last 2 weeks. उससे पहले I just wrote another slice of life show, but this time luckily the 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 main characters were not of my age. They were much older, or when they were of my age, they belonged to a different social economic class, and it's set in the film world. So yeah, or a very small part of the film world, not a very large part of the film world. So they're not like the directors or they're not like the producers, but the everyday players of the film world. It's based around them. So yeah.
How does so okay? We are engineering students basically, but what a lot of people understand or realize after going for engineering is that they don't belong there and they have some other creative avenue that they want to explore. So when it comes to that, how exactly do you go from writing and trying again and again to get published, or sending your scripts for approval, to actually getting to these big stages? What is the process for you, and how do you think it's going to be? How do you think it is in general as well?
Yeah, as the cliche goes, every journey is different. I can tell you personally what worked for me. What worked for me is the fact that if you do good work follows. If you do shit work follows. And it takes you longer to break the ceiling, right? Uh, Now, if you're privileged enough, it's your duty to do good work. It's really as simple as that. I mean, if anything that this lockdown has taught us, amongst 100 other things, is the fact that people like you, me, we have we're decently privileged. So when you do good work follows, and good people want to work with you. One is that. Second is to not be obsessed with instant success. I think is very, very important, because if you're obsessed with instant success, then you'll be making choices which won't feel, for lack of a better word, evergreen. They'll feel like popcorn. People won't be invested in you. So to also have a long-term plan in your mind, if you're working on a series of comedy sketches, it's always nice to develop ideas on the side about a nice comedy film, about an alien comedy film, or about whatever comedy film, to always have a big project in your mind. Not big, I don't mean in scale, big in terms of your association with it and how much you love it. So even if you're not doing the things which give you money that you love, it's always good to have a personal life, an individual, quiet, hidden life where you're doing things which you love. Otherwise, you'll die, man. If you are a person who wants to tell stories, because it's a very brutal world and everything is very expensive and everything requires time and money. But to have a private life, to have our own private temple, I think is very, very important. So yeah, to just have a private life, I guess, is very, very important in order to live a fruitful life.
Right.
Sometimes the
So,
private life gets you money, and that's a positive. Till the time
right.
that doesn't happen, you have a private life.
So, this is the last question from our end. In conclusion, so I want to know what your favorite genre writing. What's your favorite genre to write for? Or is there a favorite genre to write for you? Or like you're like open to writing? Depends on the mood.
Yeah, I genuinely want to write all sorts of things, but there are some things that I know I won't be able to write. For example, sci-fi. For example, action thrillers. I won't be able to write them because I don't have the skill. However, I would want to write films and shows from different genres. I think also I'm stuck with the whole slice of life thing. It's me not being able to evolve, um, and me, and then on bad days I ask myself that you are just stuck and you're not growing and you're not evolving, and you see life with just one lens and one perspective, right? With this whole love for minute details and stuff like that. On other days, on happy days, I love to embrace it and say, well, the best of all people have a certain style, your Woody Allen, your Kashyap. Not that those are best filmmakers, but auteur filmmaking is basically you have your own personal style. So should I really diss it or should I embrace it? So I don't know. At this time, I'm actually conflicted because I feel I'm stuck, but I'm also growing. And I try to do things differently, but then I can't change the way I think also. So the only thing that I do at the same time is to learn different things, which is to read books of different genres, watch shows of different genres, and just be open to the ideas. And then when time comes to make a gangster film, I think I will be ready enough because I was open to learning about gangster films as opposed to closing the door that, oh, I'm not going to do this shit because I can't do it. I can't do it now because I'm not intelligent enough to do it, but I can be curious enough to learn about it. So yeah, just that.
Right. So, just following up on that, we usually tend to, let's say, profile actors according to what they're most prominent for their work for, right? So, just take an example. Let's say Johnny Lever, right? We always want to see Johnny Lever in a comic role. So, do you think something similar could happen to you if you don't try something new as an actor? In the sense that people would
Yeah,
always expect you to be in a show, a rom-com kind of show.
yeah, it is in fact happening always, and I've said no to a lot of things. But I also am lucky like that because I'm very comfortable writing and very comfortable not being on set. I'm very comfortable being of creating things as opposed to sitting in front of the camera. So it doesn't eat me. It doesn't eat me up. So so I'm okay, to be honest, if I'm not getting a lot of acting gigs or if I'm not getting acting gigs that I would like. Uh, so I'm okay with that. What would be a problem is that if I'm not able to tell my stories, I think that will really eat me up. More so because I know how good it feels to actually tell your stories, you know, because I've been in that ship. Now, I think once you've entered the ship, is not the difficult part, but what happens next is the more difficult part, you know. Um, yeah. So it's not little things, it's the show that comes after this or the film that comes after this, which should actually be more important. This one is just your entry, right? See how fucked up this, how intense this whole process is.
So, so just in conclusion, I so this is the last question. How has the lockdown affected your writing? Has it like helped you get more creative in the sense that you have more free time so you can explore new things, or is video like you feel like you're boxed in so you can't probably concentrate? How is it? How has the lockdown affected your work?
Yeah, it's definitely helped me because I've been more productive. I've really written a lot during the lockdown. But what has started to happen is that I've become now I've got tired. Now I'm very tired. Because earlier how I would write is that I would write in Bombay and then I would take a weekend trip to Pune and I would write there, or I would go to Bangalore for 3-4 days and write there. And food becomes a very big incentive, and I love those two cities because of the food and the coffees and all of that, and the long walks, right? So you can just, or I would go to someplace in the hills. So I'm not able to do any of that. I'm not even able to go to my coffee shop. So I think these are, a lot of people think that this is that तुम छोटी बात को इतना बड़ा बना रहे हो, like look at what the world is going through and you are saying you can't go to your coffee shop to write. What a fucking sad story. But for me it's just it feels like I don't know how to say it. It just feels like I'm not able to escape my mind in the lockdown, you know, because if there was no lockdown, then I would be going out and I can escape my mind. I cannot think of things because I have to think of the film that is playing in front of me or the burger that is in front of me. But inside your house lives not just you, but also the mind that you've, cultivated. So I would like to shut the mind off for a bit. Uh, but that can't happen if you're in a lockdown because what will you distract yourself with? Even Netflix gets boring after a point, right? Even though there's great stuff on it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, just by what you said in that answer. So the instances in the first and second season where you wake up at 5 in the morning, get a car, and go to eat kebab somewhere. Is that something you would actually do, or is that just something you wrote about? Because I'm just asking because that was your answer.
No, man, that is that, in fact, that's how I've explored the city, Bombay. I don't have much love for the city. I do now. I love it intensely. But the way I explored the city was after doing my day job, I would take the train and go really far just to eat a mutton cutlet, and just to eat a fish fry. Uh, so that's how I've explored the city. And that is really me. Because, and it's not exactly about food. It's just because when you go to a place where you get good food, I think you get good stories also. you know. And especially if it's a place which has a history attached to it, you won't come empty-handed. You can't just be like, "बहुत अच्छा खाना था." You'll always have some other thought, you know, oh, the plates are very old, or the furniture was like this, or the street opposite it was very modern and this was very old. Something or the other will always come into your mind. And also, I think when you're eating food, you're taking in a lot of information. You want to eat not just from your mouth, but from all your different senses. If you're enjoying a food, if it's just shit food, then you just want to eat it and throw it, right? But I think that for me, food is a very nice way of inviting the world into my mind. You know, I want to know the people's stories like that. So, well, that's not happening now, but that's okay. I think it'll happen soon. I'm still very happy being in the lockdown, because the alternative would have been to shoot with 100 other people on the set, and I'll be like, "Ugh, what the fuck is happening?" So
If you had to pick between one, waking up at 5 and going for a tea, and then or going for chote mia kebabs at 3 o'clock in the morning, what would you rather
eat, because Chote Mia is fucking terrible.
pick? All right then.
Are you
With
from
that,
Also,
Are you from Bombay?
no, I've lived there. Like I went to Bombay last December and we did that 3 o'clock thing, and then we took the first
Okay,
local train 5 o'clock in the morning and came back to IT Bombay.
it's very good. Where are you guys? Like, where are you guys based out of?
Vellore Institute of Technology, VIT. That's a university is around 2 hours from Chennai.
Oh, so you're there only?
No, no,
no,
no.
no,
No,
We're
right
no, of
all
now,
course I
back
know
home.
VIT.
Yeah,
हाँ,
we're
so
all back
वही
home.
पूछा हूँ. Where is home?
I'm in Kolkata and he's in Dubai.
Oh, nice, man. Nice.
yeah.
Sweet.
Also, Dhruv, there was one more question which we were actually forced to ask.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Your love for coffee is something which is pretty prevalent in almost all your interviews, as well as for cooking. What's your favorite? What's your favorite dish to create? One, and what's your favorite type of coffee?
What's my favorite dish to create? I I don't know why these days it's kala chana, because my girlfriend loves it and I like it when she loves it. So I think it's kala chana and rice, weirdly, even though I'm not like an insanely big fan of it. My favorite coffee these days is this coffee called Riverdale by this roastery in Nagpur called Corridor 7. And man, it's so delicious. That's what I'm going to do once we are done with this. It makes me feel like a drug addict, because my mind is always revolving around that. It is like drinking syrup, you know. Fun facts, by the way, coffee has more complex flavors than even wine. So it is actually the most complex beverage. One. Second, it is the most traded commodity in the world after petrol, you know. And yeah, I can give you a lot of fun facts about coffee, but yeah, it's great.
All right, thank you.
All
I
right
can't
then.
believe मेरे मुंह में पानी आ रहा है while talking about coffee. I don't know what existence do I have, but yeah.
All right then. With that, we come to the conclusion of this interview, the most interesting one we have taken till now. Thank you so much for being here with us for the interview, and we
Thank you,
hope we
and
can talk to you.
sorry for yesterday, and sorry about what else am I sorry about? About being late.
No, it's
No,
completely
it's
fine.
fine.
And we really look forward to interacting with you and having you in our university. I remember we tried to get in touch with you in February through Karthik. So Karthik came to our
Yeah.
university, but we couldn't do that. We hope we can have you over sometime. So with that,
Yeah.
thank you so much for doing this and
Yes.
have a great day.
Likewise. Yeah. You too,
Thank you.
man. Chalo. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.